Hello and welcome to our third weekly meeting for OHSAA Softball 2021. Our first topic is Rule 8, presented by Brian Harrell of the Summit Umpires Association and Linda Papagna of the Trumbull County and Youngstown Metro Associations. We'll then hear from Gary Russell II on movement from the plate, a presentation co-authored by Gene, Bess, and Gary, both from the Muskingum Valley Umpires Association. Lastly, we're going to have a very important update to the 2021 rules modifications. There have been some revisions to these modifications, particularly concerning game balls, and it's very important that everybody has a good understanding of these, so we're going to spend some time on that. This particular presentation also will cover questions concerning the 2021 modifications, as well as umpire responsibilities, which was really the major area of questions that we had for this year. I want to thank all of our presenters and remind you that in the coming weeks we will hear from these and more presenters from all around Ohio. Thanks and have a great week. Hope that your scrimmages are going well.
Hello everyone, my name is Gary Russell and this is Gene, Bess, and I's presentation on umpire movement from the plate. A good plate umpire realizes that he or she is not only required to call balls and strikes, but must be able to move to cover other responsibilities. The plate umpire must be ready and able to move during the game. It is important to remember that as the plate umpire, we are working together as a team with our base umpire, which would require us to move to cover other responsibilities. On a ball that eludes the catcher, whether it be a passed ball or a foul ball, behind the catcher, or a drop third strike, the plate umpire should be ready to move to clear the catcher. There are a few ways to do this. However, our umpire movement needs to be based on reading the shoulders of the catcher. As the ball passes into foul territory behind the catcher, we want to be reading those shoulders to tell us which way we need to exit the catcher in order to avoid any kind of interference with the catcher. We want to do this by either exiting on the right or left hand of the batter, and after we've read the shoulders of the catcher, we want to pivot and drop step to allow the catcher to take you to the ball. You're going to read the catcher, pivot, drop, and step, and allow the catcher to take you to the ball. After you have cleared the catcher, you're going to move to the next area of responsibility, which could be a possible catch of the fly ball, a foul fly ball, help on a throw to first base on a batter runner, or a play at third base or the plate. Some things to keep in mind here is to not get too close to the catcher or too close to the ball as you're letting the catcher take you to the ball. Keep a good distance between the play and yourself to avoid any kind of interference with a thrown ball or interfering with the catcher themselves as they attempt to make any type of play. On a batted ball with no runners on base or a single runner at first base, the plate umpire will always exit to the left of the catcher to trail the batter runner unless the play takes you elsewhere. In order to do this, we want to trail the batter runner slightly outside the foul line and end up approximately 1/3 of the way to first base in order to help the first base umpire with a pulled foot, a swipe tag, or a bobbled ball. Again, as you're trailing up the runner, you want to make sure that you leave a decent amount of distance as to not interfere with any type of play. After you have trailed the batter runner to first base, you may need to move to the holding zone or third base. When moving to third base, you want to move directly across the diamond to a location 90 degrees to the path of the runner, just short of the base that she is trying to reach and a minimum of 10 to 12 feet from the base. When moving to the holding zone, move directly to an area in foul ground about halfway to third base and be ready to read the play. Remember that while in the holding zone, we want to continue to read the play to be able to move easily up to third base to be able to make a play there, make a call at that base, or be able to move easily to home plate for a potential call there as well. In certain situations, a play may develop which requires the plate umpire to move to third base. In A, after moving to the holding zone and a play develops at third base, you want to move inside the diamond about 2/3 of the way towards third base to a minimum of 10 to 12 feet from the base, obtaining a 90-degree angle. You want to make sure that you stop, read the play, and then make the call. And in the second situation, when exiting the catcher with a play immediately at third base, you want to move directly up the foul line in fair territory to a minimum of 10 to 12 feet from the base, obtaining a 90-degree angle as well. Again, you're stopping, reading the play, and then making the call. After moving to the holding zone, a play may develop at home. In these situations, you want to move from the holding zone towards home in foul territory and assume a position in foul ground at a minimum of 10 to 12 feet from home, in line with the deepest corner of the right-handed batter's box. Move with the play to get an unobstructed view of the play. Stop, read the play, and then make the call. In the event that the ball is in foul territory and you need to move from the holding zone towards home plate, move along the diamond parallel to the baseline inside the diamond to a minimum of 10 to 12 feet from home plate, obtaining a 90-degree angle to the path of the runner. Stop, read the play, then make the call. In the event of a timing play, when the runner touches the plate prior to the last out of the inning, and the run will count, emphatically point to the plate and say run counts or run scores. In the event that the runner does not touch the plate before the last out of the inning, the run does not count. So you would simply say run does not count or no run. Plays at home plate are obviously very important because a run may or may not score. So it is imperative to know your plate mechanics at home plate and your movement in order to get in the correct position to be able to stop, read the play, and then make the call. Remember, our goal is to make the right call all the time. In addition to the plate mechanics that we've went over so far, the plate umpire also has fair or foul responsibility on ground balls near the foul line. The best place to be is to position yourself on the foul line for these calls. If the ball is foul, give the dead ball signal and a verbal call of foul or foul ball. If the ball is fair, we want to point towards fair territory with the arm closest to fair ground, and no verbal call is given. Remember, our timing is extremely important on these type of calls. You want to be able to stay slow on your call in order to be able to give an accurate fair or foul call. Because remember, if we give a foul call or a foul ball call and the ball ends up moving back into fair territory, we have already killed the play in this situation. So our timing is extremely important to be able to call our fair and foul balls. On fly balls to the outfield, not near the foul line, we want to be able to move parallel to the flight of the ball to obtain a good angle to the catch versus straight at the fielder catching the ball. If the ball is caught, we may give an out signal and a verbal out call. If the play is very close but the ball is not caught, it is permissible to give a safe or no catch signal if needed. Remember, angle over distance. By moving parallel to the flight of the ball, we're not only able to obtain a good angle, but we're also not putting ourselves into a position to where we potentially could interfere with a following play. On a fly ball to the outfield, near the foul line, when your partner does not turn his or her back, the plate umpire has fair foul and catch no catch responsibilities. When the ball is near the foul line with no runner at third, we want to move up the foul line to a position to be able to see the ball. When the ball is close to the foul line and is touched, whether it's caught or not, the umpire first must give the ball status by pointing fair or foul. This is very important to give the status of the ball due to the fact that the play may or may not end as soon as the ball is touched. When the ball is close to the foul line and is first touched over fair territory, we want you to point fair. And if the ball is not caught, the point is followed by a strong fair ball signal. Sometimes you may want to signal the fair ball signal once or twice to emphatically let everyone know that the ball is fair. If the ball is caught, simply just give an out signal. When the ball is close to the foul line and is first touched over foul territory, point foul, giving the status of the ball. Remember, this is just a simple point. There is no verbal at this point. If the ball is not caught, give a strong dead ball signal and a strong verbal call of foul or foul ball. If the ball is caught, simply give an out signal. If the ball is near the foul line and lands in fair territory, untouched, give a fair ball signal. Again, if the ball is fair, we are giving a non-verbal fair signal. If the ball is near the foul line and lands in foul territory untouched, give a dead ball signal and a verbal call of foul or foul ball. In some cases, you may need to emphatically call fair or foul because of noise or potential close to the line. When the ball is hit over the fence in fair territory, give a home run signal by raising the right arm above the head, fist closed, and rotate the fist. The plate umpire should hustle in these instances to be able to achieve the best angle and distance based on the scenario to be able to see the ball clear the fence. The plate umpire should assume a position to watch the runners touch home plate in foul territory so they have all the action in front of them. It is imperative that we watch all of the runners touch home plate in these situations. If the ball hits the ground before clearing the fence and then bounces over the fence, we now have a ground rule double, which we give the two base award signal by raising the right arm above our head, hand open with 2 consecutive fingers extended, and verbally call 2 bases.
Greetings, everybody. My name is Brian Harrell, and I am here with Linda Papagna, and we've been asked to talk about Rule 8 in the 2021 NFHS softball book, and kind of some ideas and concepts that we've learned over the years in how to handle Rule 8. Rule 8 is an especially important rule as we go forward with this year. Welcome, Linda. It's good to have you.
Oh, thank you, Brian. It's good to be here with you.
I am going to stop my share here, and I'm going to bring up the PowerPoint that Linda created. And so, Linda, what are the 5 sections of Rule 8 that we're going to talk about today?
Brian, today we're going to discuss sections 1, 3, 7, 9, and 10.
And so as we go forward to Rule 1, we just see the batter becomes a batter runner. It's pretty important to know when a batter becomes a batter runner. The rules change fairly quickly from batting rules to batter runner rules. We see 4 different parts of the rule that makes a batter runner: legally hitting a fair ball. Ball 4 is called on the batter. The catcher fails to catch the 3rd strike before the ball touches the ground when there are fewer than 2 outs and first base is unoccupied at the time, or an intentional walk. I want to point out that what we call a drop 3rd strike, it's very important to realize that if the ball touches the ground on that 3rd strike and there's less than 2 outs and no runner on first, or there are 2 outs and there is a runner on first, that batter may run. It doesn't matter if the catcher catches it cleanly off of the ground. The minute it touches the ground, it is a live ball. A batter also becomes a batter runner when the catcher or other defensive player obstructs, hinders, or prevents the batter from hitting the pitch. Linda, talk to us a little bit about catcher obstruction.
Okay, in this situation, in the picture, you see there is definitely catcher obstruction. And the picture to the right, you have actually, it would be the base umpire, but it would be the plate or the base umpire that would declare a dead ball obstruction, and by putting out the left hand in the fist. And when that occurs, you have a couple things that can happen. With batter's obstruction, if the batter would hit the ball and reach first base safely, and all other runners have advanced at least 1 base on a batted ball, the catcher's obstruction is canceled, and all other actions of the batter stand. And at this time, no option would be given to the coach. Now, if in the event that if the batter does not reach first base with catcher obstruction and all other runners do not advance at least 1 base, the coach would be notified by the plate umpire of the obstruction. And at that time, they would have the option to take the result of the play or have the obstruction enforced by awarding the batter first base and advancing all other runners only if they're forced to.
Linda, do you automatically give those options to the coach if in number 2, or do you expect the coach to know them?
What I would do is when obstruction does occur and the runner did not get first base, or the runners did not get to advance 1 base, I definitely would talk to the coach and make him aware of his options.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's a rule of thought out there to anticipate the coach to know everything about this rule. And I think us as umpires need to be in the camp of let's explain it, let's talk our way through it, and then go and explain it to the other coach also.
Absolutely. Good point.
This is an extremely important rule to understand when it comes to when we will give those options. If the batter reaches first and all other runners have advanced at least one base, there are no options. And so can there be an out on a play like this, even of the batter runner? Yes, if they've all reached at least one base and the batter runner reaches first base safely.
Most definitely.
All right, so a batter is also awarded first base on a pitched ball that is entirely in the batter's box and hits the batter, or hits the ground in front of the plate and then hits the batter while in the batter's box. This changed a couple years ago. There is no attempt that needs to be made if the ball is completely in the batter's box. And this wasn't a change, but it's something kind of to talk about. If the ball hits the ground and then hits the batter, it's still a pitch. We have to go back to Rule 2 when we talk about what is a pitch and when does a pitch end. And specifically, a pitch does not end just because it hits the ground. And I think we all know that. So a ball that hits the ground, hits a batter, is a hit bats person. In this example, the pitch is not in the strike zone, but not entirely inside the batter's box when it hits the batter. The batter makes no attempt to avoid being hit. The batter moves her knee or other part of the ball into the path of the ball. In both scenarios, the ball is dead and the batter is not awarded first base. You would have a ball on the batter. Why? Because the ball is not entirely in the batter's box. It needs to be entirely in the batter's box to not have to avoid being hit. If the batter swings at a pitch in or out of the strike zone and the ball hits the batter's hands, whether foul or fair, this is a dead ball strike. Batter's hands are never part of the bat. When you go to Dick's Sporting Goods to buy a bat, they do not come with the batter's hands. And we have a strike on the batter. And if the batter has 2 strikes at the time of the pitch, she would be out. Linda, have you ever had situations with dead ball strikes like this?
Oh, definitely, Brian. And I will tell you that coaches do not know this rule. How many times we have to call time, explain to the coach that the hands are not part of the bat, and that she swung at it, even though it hit the hands, it's still a strike. So it's a very important rule that you have to explain to coaches at times, and it does happen occasionally.
What happens to the runners then?
It's a dead ball. They have to return back to bases that they were occupied.
Absolutely. Even if the runners were trying to steal or were moving on the pitch.
Yes.
So Rule 8, Section 3 is touching bases in legal order. I find that a lot of coaches and umpires struggle with Section 3 at times, and why that is. I have a few theories, but I don't care to share them today. But we know that a runner must touch the bases in proper order when advancing. While the ball is in play, the runners must touch the bases in reverse order unless there's a foul ball. For example, runner on second base, long fly ball to the outfield. Runner rounds third and realizes the ball was caught. The runner must return and step back on third base before returning to second. That is an appeal play. Okay, we do not call that out immediately. And so if that girl was 2/3 or halfway to home and she cuts through the infield to go back to second, when she's standing on second, when that ball becomes dead, or it can be a live ball appeal, we wait until the coaches, the head coach, or the players on the field appeal that play. Have you ever had that before, Linda?
No, I have not had that occur, Brian. How about you?
You know what? I had it once, and they didn't appeal it. And so because nobody knew the rule, which often happens, but the key is that we need to be aware of when she has to come back, she has to touch that third base or that that base that she touched.
Yeah.
All right, runners cannot confuse the defense by running the bases incorrectly or to make a travesty of the game. Call it a dead ball and the runner is out. I've never had that, and nor do I plan on having that in another 25 years.
Yes.
Hopefully. Two runners may not legally occupy the same base at the same time. Linda, who is out if there's two people on the same base at the same time and the fielder tags both of them?
Okay, if the defense tags the runner, both runners, the runner who had the base first would be safe, and the girl who occupied the base coming from another base would be considered out. The first person who occupied the base is entitled to that base.
Absolutely. Very good. No runner may return to touch a missed base or one left too soon after a falling runner has scored or once she leaves the field of play. You have a home run and bases loaded grand slam, and R1, who was on third, misses the plate, and R2, who was on second, touches the plate. R1 cannot come back and retouch. But again, this is out if there is a legal appeal made. Same thing if R1 is the only person on the bases, she does not miss home plate, and she goes into the dugout. The coaches can't grab her and pull her back out to retouch that base or to touch it for the first time. Linda, talk a little bit about leaving early.
This is section 3. Runners, when they leave the base too soon on a caught fly ball, runners must retouch the base before advancing to the next base. Pretty much it's a basic, they have to return, tag up before they could advance. If they don't, it is an appealable call, whether it be dead ball or live ball appeal. And if they did not go back and touch after the catch, there would definitely be an out. So, and this does happen a lot of times, you know, that girls don't pay attention and are not watching the ball, make the caught, they may make the catch, and away they go. And, you know, we have no tag and she's out.
I think it's important to talk about is that appeals on these plays, we have to know it's an appeal. There's no accidental appeal. But when if a girl leaves early and they throw it back to the base, knowing, and you all and everybody in the stadium knows that that's why they're doing it, because they feel as though they left early. I don't think they need to make a big show over, hey, that girl left early or anything like that. However, if you've got a situation of a missed base and they run by it and they just kind of touch the base, they need to actually say to you, the batter runner missed second base. So there's no accidental appeals on these. Awarded bases must be ran legally by runners. If there is a runner, let's say on first, and the ball is thrown into the stands and she is awarded third, she must touch second. And so when you call time, you are awarded third base. She has to run and touch second, and then she goes on to third. If she doesn't touch second, again, this is an appealable offense and must be appealed. Yes. Linda, it's all you. Your look back rule, Linda. So I'll tell you guys something fun about Linda and I. Linda and I have worked several games together, and Linda is the queen of the look back rule. She has gotten correctly more look back rules than I have gotten totally, whether I called it correctly or incorrectly when we've been together. She is very aware of the look back rule. And honestly, one of the things that she has taught me over the years is I need to be very cognizant and be on my toes, not only of runners that touch the bases or of obstruction, but of the look back rule. And so, Linda, I would love to hear you talk about the look back rule today.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Brian.
Oh,
I did have a video that was very good, but with some technical difficulties, it's not working at this moment. But the look back rule, before it becomes into effect, you have to have 3 things. You have to have a live ball. The batter has to be has touched first base or declared out, and the pitcher has to have the ball and have control of the ball in the pitching circle. When you have those 3 things, then the look back rule would become in effect. On a normal walk, the runner would stop, even though the pitcher has the ball in the circle, we have nothing. But when the look back rule becomes a little tricky is when the runner start to make the turn at the base. They make that turn kind of like going towards second base, and then they stop. Normally I would give them 1, maybe 2 quick seconds for a stop, and then they must immediately return to the last touch base or attempt to advance to second base. Again, a lot of coaches don't know this rule. They think the minute that girl stops, she should be called out. But again, you have to remember, you have to give her at least 1, 2 quick seconds to make that decision to return to the base or go on to the next.
Linda, going back to that first bullet point, number 3, how do you know that a pitcher has control of the ball in a circle? What do you do as an umpire to ensure that has happened while you're looking at these?
Well, yeah. Well, one thing, Brian, that the pitcher has to have control of the ball either in her hand or in the glove, and both of her feet must be in the pitching circle. She doesn't have to be on the pitching rubber. She has to be in the pitching circle. And remember, the circle, that white chalk, is part of the circle. So if her feet are touching the circle, the pitcher is considered in the circle. And that's kind of like what I look at.
Yeah, if a pitcher wants to tie her shoes and puts the ball down, do you call time? Because now she does not have control of the ball anymore.
I would not call time unless she asked for time. So if she takes the ball and the glove out of her hands to put on the ground to tie her shoe, at that time she does not have control of the ball and play can continue on.
Excellent. I think Linda talked a little bit about the 1 to 2 seconds once she has rounded first base with the ball in possession of the pitcher in the circle. The batter runner overruns first base toward right field. She turns left and moves back to the infield in any direction except directly toward second base and then stops. She must return to first base. Linda, if the ball is in the circle in the pitcher's possession and the runner just stops at first, the batter runner just stops at first and doesn't overrun, is she allowed to, does she also get those 1 to 2 seconds to take off?
No, once that ball is in the circle and she stops at first base and she decides to leave first base, you then definitely would have an out.
Excellent.
Yeah. And you know what, Brian, and I have a lot of coaches question this too, as this, whether it be the runners running down the infield makes that turn towards the left, towards second base, even though she does not make an advancement towards second. A lot of coaches feel that just because she turned left, she should be out, and that is not the case.
Absolutely. This was the video. Linda, can you talk to us about that play with a runner on third base and a batter gets a base on balls?
Yeah. Again, and I apologize for the video, but the situation is that we have a batter who is walked to first base, a girl on third base. Now, the girl who bats is the batter runner coming from home to first base, proceeds to first base and then turns and goes towards second. Now, the girl on third takes a few steps off the base, stops, and kind of starts dancing both towards home and then back to second or back to third, while the girl is rounding first, going to second. And in the video, it shows it, a great video clip of it. But in that situation, the girl on third would be out. Now, mostly all eyes are on the batter runner going down the first baseline. But as umpires, we need to remember there are other people or other base runners. So if that girl on third or second is making any type of movement, right or left, the look back rule would come into effect and she would be out.
Absolutely. We have to keep, so 2 umpire system, 1 umpire keeps their eyes on 1 runner and the other umpire keeps their eyes on the other runner. Most likely the base umpire will watch the runner on first base and the plate umpire will watch the runner on third base. To kind of finish up the look back rule, I want to point out the exception in the rule, and it's the runner will not be declared out if a play is made on another runner. Fake throw is considered a play, or the pitcher no longer has possession of the ball, or the pitcher releases the ball on a pitch to the batter. Now, for us newer officials, that is why a girl is out for leaving early, is because of the look back rule. If we're talking about steals, is because the pitcher has the ball in the circle in possession and not making a play during a pitch. So that's why we call them out for leaving early. Linda, what do you consider making a play by that pitcher that will take the look back rule off?
Well, one, of course, would be the pitcher faking a throw at one of the runners. 2, taking a couple steps to advance towards the runner with the ball in her hand. I would consider those as options of taking the look back rule because she's actually attempting to make a play or engaging in the batter or the runner. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I would consider that. Yes.
I agree. And it's interesting. There's other rule books that are very clear about and define making a play. Unfortunately, our rule book right now doesn't define it as well as potentially others. And part of that is, it says faking a throw, but it also is this idea of making, taking some steps and making them engage. Basically, to me, if the pitcher engages the runner, however that is considered making a play.
Yes.
Courtesy runners are sometimes the bane of our existence, at least for me. I can tell you a few years ago, I messed up the courtesy runner rule when I was a younger umpire. And it was against a coach that I was very familiar with. And he's actually an excellent umpire. He only umpires now. And he was my error was I allowed multiple players, the single courtesy runner to run for multiple players, the pitcher and catcher. So number 22, I allowed to run for the pitcher and the catcher. I allowed it because the other coach wanted to get away with something, and he did, because I was not good enough yet to catch that. And God bless the other coach. He walked out to me, he says, "Brian, this is wrong." And I was not good with this rule yet. He says, "But I'm not going to say anything because eventually you'll figure this out." And he walked back away. And I thank Tony almost every day about that. And I remind him about me learning the courtesy rule that night from him. So a courtesy runner may be used for the pitcher and catcher. Now, the pitcher and catcher are the pitcher and catchers of record. They are the last people to pitch and to catch in the previous half inning. If it's the top of the first, it's the pitcher or catcher that is on the official lineup. The courtesy runner must be someone who has not been in the game. And then number 3 is the one that I messed up. The same courtesy runner may not run for both the pitcher and the catcher. It must be two different players. So in theory, if you're running a straight 9 lineup, then you have to have 11 players if you want to run for both the pitcher and the catcher. You don't have to. The pitcher or catcher must bat and then reach base legally in order to be eligible. When using a courtesy runner, it is not a substitution. And courtesy runners must be reported to the plate umpire, who will then record the courtesy runner on the team's lineup card. I want to, and I learned this from that same game, record the courtesy runners every time. So if your pitcher gets on base 4 times and the same courtesy runner, number 22, is the courtesy runner every single time, I should have number 22 4 times on my lineup card. I want to be very good with that. That way I don't mess it up. A courtesy runner may not be a substitute in the same half inning that she ran as the courtesy runner unless there's an injury or a disqualification and there are no substitutes available. A courtesy runner can never run for another courtesy runner. So if a courtesy runner gets injured, the coach can return the coach or the catcher back into the game, or the coach may substitute for that courtesy runner. And then any violations of the courtesy runner is considered an illegal substitution. And that goes under those rules. Failure to report the courtesy runner to the plate umpire is the team warning to the head coach. And then the head coach will be restricted to the dugout bench for the remainder of the game. Linda, talking about this failure to report, if you see a courtesy runner grab her helmet and the pitcher just got to first base and she comes running out, do you wait and make the coach and the player, or are you proactive and ask, is this my courtesy runner? How do you handle that?
Yeah, well, Brian, that's a good question. A lot of, if you're paying attention and you're watching what's going on the field, you're going to see that happen. And, I usually give them a second or two, and then I would kind of like start to walk over to that coach and say, Coach, you got any changes at this time? Just kind of be preventive. And then, because you're not supposed to project a substitute or anything like that. So definitely you want to approach the coach and say, any changes now, Coach?
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of those times that we can be preventive officials. I'm a big fan of being able to prevent violations like this as often as we can without taking away the advantage from another team. As we finish up these last couple of minutes, Linda, can you talk about the double first base a little bit?
All right. Again, each state adopts some of their own rules, but Ohio implemented the double first base basically to prevent injuries and for safety purposes. There's been some serious collisions coming down first base. So you have your colored portion of the base, and then you have your white portion of the base. The defense is to use the white portion, the offense to use the colored portions coming down from a play coming from the infield. Now, there are a few exceptions, but again, the defense is to use the white, the offense use the colored portion of the base. You have a situation where you have a runner on third base. The batter hits a ground ball to the shortstop. The shortstop throws to first base. The batter runner touches the white part of the base and collides with the first baseman, who is also standing on the white part of the base. Definitely, this is one of the reasons why the double base was implemented, to avoid these types of collisions. At that time, I definitely would call interference on the runner. It is a dead ball, and the batter runner would be out. The runner on third must return to the last occupied base at the time of the interference. Now, some exceptions here. The offense and defense may use either the white or the white colored portion of the base in the areas that are listed below. On a force out, attempting to come from the foul side of first base. If you look at the picture, you can see the first baseman is using the colored portion of the bag, and the runner is correctly moved using the white portion of the bag. On an overthrow or a wild throw, pulling the defensive off the base, and like in this situation, definitely the first baseman can use the colored portion of the bag. On a fair ball that's hit to the outfield with no play being made on the batter runner, the batter runner may use the white portion of the bag. And also in that situation, when the batter runner is making the turn, it's as the base umpire, you also need to watch for obstruction on the first baseman. Sometimes the first baseman in that situation tends to maybe not get out of the way and not enabling the runner to have room to make that turn. So you have to watch for a little obstruction there in that situation. And then on a fly ball tag up, the offense can use either the colored portion or the white portion of the bag. Any pickoff plays or based on balls, they can use either part of the base. And we basically talked about those things, throws coming down from foul territory. This one here is the line shot that's hit off the pitcher, first baseman or third baseman, and hits off their shin or off their shoe and travels into foul territory. When it is a race to the base by the fielder and the runner, either can touch the colored portion or the white portion of the bag. And situation 2, the catcher fielding the ball and then throwing from foul territory, the defense can touch either the colored or the white portion of the base, and the runner should do the same to avoid the collision. So anytime it's coming from foul territory, the defense can use the colored portion of the bag. And Brian, if you don't have any other comments, that concludes our presentation with the rules, Rule 8.
Sounds great. I do want to say one last thing. If you don't have a collision at first base on a situation where the runner must use the colored base, that is an appealed play. And so that is an out, but it has to be appealed by the defense. And I have never had anybody appeal that play ever.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you very much.
As you'll recall, in our state meeting, we discussed the rules modifications or temporary changes for the year 2021. These have been adopted due to the health emergency. As stated in the state meeting and also in the White Book supplement, these modifications are likely to be adjusted at various times during the course of the season. Our first revision is the elimination of the modification concerning softballs. This modification has been eliminated in its entirety. What this means is that we will go back to the standard method of handling softballs, and we will eliminate the modification that is shown on this particular slide. Let's talk a little bit more about that. When we talk about returning to the standard rules and related procedures for handling game balls, this means the home team will provide the game balls, and each team will use the same softballs. The use of softballs will be handled just as they were in 2019 and for many, many years prior to that. The ball rotation system found in Rule 6.5 will also apply. This means that the pitcher may request a new ball at the start of a half inning prior to any of her warm-up pitches. It's not necessary for you to ask her if she wants a different softball. This is just her one opportunity each time she goes out there to make that request. In the bottom of the first inning, the pitcher should throw an unused ball if there is an unused ball. So in other words, if you get 2 new balls to start the game, and in the top of the first, the home team's pitcher uses only 1 softball, and you have another new softball that has not been used at all in the course of the top of the first. That should be used to start the beginning of the bottom half of this first inning. The ball that's in play must be used until it goes out of play or becomes unplayable. By a ball going out of play, we mean that it's batted or thrown outside the playing field, outside live ball territory, over a fence, whatever. And also, an unplayable ball is simply a ball that's wet or damaged. If it's wet because of rain or whatever, it can be certainly cleaned up and used later in the game. If it's damaged, a cut, it should be removed from the game for the duration of the contest. One thing that we still need to note is that if the ball comes into contact with body fluids, it is considered unplayable, must be removed, and either replaced or sanitized. This aligns with our previous statements concerning infractions by the pitcher. The pitcher is not permitted to lick her fingers and wipe them off. She's not allowed to blow into her hands. If this happens, it's no pitch. The ball is dead immediately. The ball will be replaced and sanitized, and the pitcher must sanitize her hands before play continues. Keep in mind that this rule on infractions by the pitcher applies only to the pitcher. Other players may lick their fingers or blow onto their hands to keep them warm without having to go through this process. However, if there are body fluids on the ball, we will remove or replace it. You've also probably noted that in some of our earlier meetings, we've asked for questions concerning the rules modifications for 2021. So let's take a look at some answers to some of those questions that we've received by email. The first question that comes up is, what parts of this rule modification set is a responsibility of the umpire? Well, the umpire is responsible for making sure that all players wear proper and legal equipment. Of course, this has been certified by the coach, but the umpire is also responsible for this. So keep in mind, plastic shields covering the entire face are not allowed unless they're integrated into the face mask and attached to a helmet, similar to a catcher's face mask helmet. That's the first thing. Second, equipment and uniforms can never display an unsporting message. We've had questions come up, what happens if a face mask has an unsporting message? Handle that just as you would any other unsporting message on any part of the uniform or equipment. Penalize accordingly. Umpires are also responsible for seeing that the pregame conference is conducted with proper social distancing and with everyone wearing a mask. Remember, only the umpires and the head coach of each team is involved in the pregame conference, and the coach should be outside the batter's boxes on each side of the plate area. Everyone must wear a mask. We've talked in the past about how lineup cards are handled, and of course those are also your responsibility. And remember to distance yourself whenever there's a substitution being made or reported. Other umpire responsibilities, Rule 366. Players are not permitted to leave the dugout area to congratulate players scoring or after home runs. This has always been a violation of this rule, and it's just one that we're going to have as a point of emphasis for this year. Players need to stay in the dugout unless they have ample reason, proper reason, to be out on the field of play. NFHS rules also allow for dugouts and designated warm-up areas to be extended for social distancing. If needed, these areas should be clearly marked and located beyond the end of the dugout furthest from home plate. Depending on facilities, these areas could even be a dead ball area behind the dugout. Just remember that the umpire is responsible for approving these areas in Rule 10.2.3a. Never extend the dugout towards home plate and inside the fence. So we cannot have the dugout extended on the home plate side. Also remember that it is possible that the dugout might be extended with players sitting behind the dugout, once again off to the side, but they are not permitted to ever sit behind home plate where they can watch the movement of the pitches. We covered earlier the umpire responsibilities for infractions by the pitcher. All of these are something that are clearly the responsibility of the umpire. Remember, any umpire can make this call. Other things that are amongst the umpire responsibilities are to use proper mechanics. The plate umpire might be back a little bit deeper, but still able to perform their duties, still able to see the entire plate, the entire strike zone. Remember, if you can't see the entire plate, you cannot see the entire strike zone. Facial coverings are recommended but not required on the field during play. If umpires wear them, they shall be one color, not distracting, and have no designs. Prior to and after the game, umpires shall wear a face covering. So wear a face covering from the time you leave your vehicle until the end of the pregame conference, and once the game's over, you must wear your face covering as you leave the field and return to your vehicle. Those are requirements. You can certainly wear a face covering the entire time if you'd like. And remember, umpires can also wear disposable gloves and face masks if they'd like. Umpires are not responsible for wearing face coverings between innings. You may do so, but a properly positioned umpire will not be near anyone else. Put that mask on if you are having a conversation with any person. When dusting the plate, pitcher's plate, home plate, bases, have the players step 6 feet away prior to you dusting. And remember, base umpires should maintain a 6 feet position, initial spacing, in any starting position that they have. Here are some examples of things that are not umpire responsibilities. It's not your responsibility to sanitize equipment or supervise this activity. It's not your responsibility to monitor whether or not players and other team personnel in the dugout are wearing face coverings. It's not your responsibility to maintain distancing in charge conferences or any other player activity, any other player conferences. It's not your responsibility to enforce the no-touch rule other than the Rule 366 enforcement that we talked about, keeping players in the dugout. We're not going to call a runner out for a high five or for a coach being too close to the runner or to a fielder. Coaches and schools are responsible to ensure these safety regulations are followed, and school administration is responsible to have personnel on site to ensure that these things happen. The OHSAA will be sending inspectors out to work with those compliance officers from the school. Remember that we want to work together. As umpires, we want to work with the coaches and schools to make sure the regulations are followed. But remember, it is the school's responsibility, it is the coach's responsibility to see that the players follow the regulations as well. Our goal is not to attach penalties for what's been changed. We want to remind players and coaches continuously of the new requirements. If an issue persists, it's just so bad that you can't stomach it, there may not have been a compliance officer or a COVID observer on site for that particular contest, use the special report to notify the school administration and the state association. Here's some other questions that we received. We've talked about this already, but probably the most frequent question: when does the umpire have to wear a mask? To and from the field, when you arrive, up until the end of the pregame conference, when you leave, from the time you leave the field to the time you arrive at your vehicle. Also, wear a mask anytime you have a conversation with any person at any close distance. Can players cover their mouth with their gloves while talking to others? Yes, they can do that. We can't cover and police every possible situation. This is the responsibility of the coach to deal with. Some other questions. Can a player wearing a gator lower it or wear it around her neck? Yes. There is no rule to prohibit this, and we want to make it as easy as possible for a player to both put on a face covering and remove it as needed. For many players, wearing a gator is the easiest way to have a face covering readily available when needed. Can a player carry a bottle of hand sanitizer in her pocket? Again, yes. We want to make it as easy as possible for players to clean their hands and maintain the utmost safety during the course of a contest. So to quickly review what we've covered today, first of all, we've entirely eliminated the modification concerning softballs. We will handle softballs just as we have done in years past, 2019 and prior, with the home team providing the softballs and both teams using the same balls. This will make the umpire's job much easier. Secondly, we've reviewed a lot of many questions that were received, and we hope that that review helps you as you prepare for the upcoming season in just the next few days. Thank you for all you do to keep the game safe for everyone, and have a great season.